Committee. I've been joined by Councilmember Mitch Englander. We will begin this meeting. We are awaiting one more member for quorum, and then we will start continue the meeting. Thank you. But if I could ask folks, if you could do not disrupt or disrupt other people in this meeting, we'd be greatly appreciated. Thank you. Councilmember Harris Dawson, but now I just need my planning briefing from my staff, and here it is. Good timing. Okay, we will start off with the multiple agenda item comment period. We have a few here. This gives people an opportunity who have signed up to speak on more than one agenda item to speak in the beginning of the meeting on all the items they are interested in speaking on. The first is Antonia Ramirez. Is Antonia Ramirez here? Oh, yeah.
Starting with number one, thank you very much. Los Angeles has become uninhabitable thanks to the unethical political pandering pussies, the defunct Mayor Eric Garcetti and Governor Jerry Brown and the City Attorney Michael Fior and DA Jackie Lacey, which are all traitors. They should be handcuffed and shipped to Guantanamo Bay for establishing LA as a safe haven sanctuary city for all racist hate-mongering wetbacks and Chango Latino gangbangers who have illegally added rooms, garages, and drugs and stash areas in their homes to hide their criminal gang empire. And these is throughout the city of Los Angeles. These illegal additions are to stash contraband and all sorts of illegal situations that they are involved in. Incidentally, these stash homes have become breeding grounds of rampant crimes filled with prostitution, drugs, human trafficking, weapons, theft, and other high crimes. And again, these are crimes against legal law-abiding citizens. The illegal redevelopment of these Latino homes are nothing more than underground black market redevelopment for the city of for the Latinos and the cartels and the kingpins. Thanks to the city officials and the city attorneys and the governor, who are all getting pocket money under the table. They should be sent to Guantanamo Bay. And number two, if you are going to expand the definition of shelter for the homeless, you can now add transitional shared housing for the homeless. For example, there's Pastor Chu Wong and Grace Pam and their wicked, vicious, vile witch Florence Akuchi from Nigeria, who out of their Los Angeles Faith Chapel located at 10216 South Denker Avenue, Los Angeles, California, 90047, have established homeless ministry called the Samaritan Home. And
Thank you,
do I get my 1 minute now for public comments?
We do the public comment after the meeting.
Oh, okay.
We do the multiple agenda item here, and then do the items, and then do the public comment at the end of the meeting. Thank you. Wayne.
All right. Number one, Director of Planning. Fuck that. There's no operations or work program. Since 2007, you've never filed a legitimate plan. It's on the website. Eric Previn, who is running for mayor, has proven that. You're violating the 2007 agreement. He's not submitting a written report on his findings for the past 7 years. A jackass. Now, number four, look at that. CD 14, the chair should recuse himself because you got a financial interest in this shit, because every time these councilmen get a project in their district, they're getting paid off. So we're going to have a new rule. Every time one of you creeps on this panel gets a project, you recuse yourself. Then you're going to save yourself a lot of time. Now, we got a bunch of projects in CD 7. We're having an election. So 5 and 6, defer these items. In fact, you might actually be doing that. Yes, you are. And I congratulate you for that, actually. That is a very amenable thing to do. Continued to March 28, 2017. But the problem is we're going to have a runoff. So we're going to have to wait till May to get the council person sworn in July. So please continue these items to July 2017 when we get a new councilman, because it's going to be Mr. Tarosian who's going to win that election, because Monica Rodriguez is a certifiable fucking scumbag. Now, we got 7 and 8. That's, again, CD 12. He's sitting in the room here, conflict of interest, getting paid off, no good. Get the fuck off this panel. Then that leaves 2. You don't have a quorum, so dismiss that item. And finally, number 9 for CD 9, let's give a hand to Current Price. Where is he? You know where he is? He's looking for his divorce papers in the Santa Monica Mountains and still hasn't fucking found them.
Herman?
Once again, we're back with Eric Previn's runoff. Mr. Previn has brought out the bad news how planning and oral status reports relative to the planning policies and work programs to those pinche cucarachas that have disrupted the lives of thousands in the city of Los Angeles during the ongoing development of the city's planning, which has exhausted my fucking intelligence and many of yours. Haven't you seen the progress of undevelopment with homelessness? And let's go to exercise number 4. All you dumbasses who have an item and an agenda on a certain particular item should indeed excuse yourself, because once again, it's a conflict of fucking interest. Going on now to fat bitch Monica Garcia under items 7 and 8, CD 12. After all, it's an election night, and who wants a big fat bitch running in our city on development and planning? After all, she done no fucking good for LAUSD, Mr. Dawson.
This is
and
not
then going on to item
under the
number
purview of
item
the
number
Plum
9,
Committee.
Mr. Dawson, CD 9.
Mr. Herman, can you hold this time, please? Mr. Herman, you come here in every committee meeting, and you know what the rules are. You are to speak on items that pertain to planning and land use as they pertain to the city of Los Angeles. Secondly, if a member of this panel addresses this body, you are to stop talking and listen. Thank you very much.
So the fucking issue with final environmental fucking impact reports, EIRs, at 4051 South Alameda Street, EIR, the statement of overdoing fucking consideration, mitigation, fuck your report for the 5,600 square foot parcel into 4 lots. Fuck you. We need housing that's appropriate in CD 9 and not the overdevelopment by this stupid scumbag double life bullshit senator councilman in CD 9 regarding the square footage and parking spaces. Is there sufficient parking? That's been the argument of all your constituents. Fuck you.
We will now turn to item number 3. And Herman, that is your first warning after your... that is your first warning, sir.
Mr. Chair,
You should
he's
leave.
disrupting the meeting.
You are being disruptive to this meeting. And for the record, sir, you don't have a floor right now. Just leave. Just leave. Thank you very much. And for the record, after Mr. Herman finished speaking, he sat down and shouted the F word when we were attempting to conduct meeting here. He was given a warning, and he did not agree to allow this meeting to go on, and we asked him to leave. For the record, thank you. Next item, item number 3, we can adopt on consent. 1 second.
So, Councilman, you'll
Yes.
approve the city attorney ordinance, right?
Yes. We have cards, applicant.
Ordinances.
Just,
It's
yeah.
2 ordinances.
We still consent or no? Applicants? So item number 3 on consent, thank you for that clarification.
Yeah, it's two ordinances, Councilman.
2 ordinances that we're
Yes,
approving.
yes.
Yes, okay, we'll approve that without objection.
Oh, okay, so, the first ordinance was the Warner Center Mobility Trust Fund, and the second one is the Warner Center Cultural Amenities Trust Fund, and also a repeal of a third one.
And we'll repeal that one. Yes, so ordered without objection. On item number 7, we have some speaker cards. We would have taken this item on consent. It's the applicant and the applicant representative and Don Larson. If the 3 of you waive your time to speak, we could take this item on consent. Otherwise, we will hear it. Mr. Larson? You waive? Okay.
If I could,
Go ahead, Mr. Englander.
not to speak on the item, but just to thank, particularly Don as the community member representing Northridge, who does so much, coming all the way down here as well to City Hall to testify in support of this project. I want to thank Don, give you a shout out. Appreciate everything you do for the community as well, and thank you for that.
Okay. And Mr. Mejia, can you read items 7 and 8 into the record, please?
Sure.
And we'll take those on consent.
Item 7, Councilman, this is an appeal by Luis Perez. He's appealing the various entitlements as it relates to the construction of a 140-unit residential dwelling in CD 12. And item 8 is the related track map appeal.
Okay. So we will approve those items on consent, 7 and 8, so ordered.
So as to the appeals, Councilman, are those being denied?
Are they being denied? Yes.
Yes,
They're
okay.
moved to be denied as Mr. Englander motioned. I wasn't listening. Yeah, he motioned to appeal. I'm sorry. Yes. To deny the appeal. Yeah. Okay. Moving back to item number 5. That item will be continued to March 28th. Item number 6, we will continue to March 28th. Item number 10, we will continue to March 21st. And item number 11, we will continue to April 25th. Okay? And now we will go on to the regular agenda. Item number 1 is a report from the Director of Planning, Mr. Vince Bertoni. Welcome.
Thank you. No report today.
Thank you, and happy Election Day to you. Our report, we will receive and file item number 1 without objection. Item number 4, we will also continue. That was going to be on the regular agenda, but we've been advised that there was a clerical error on the way in which it was agendized, so we will continue item 4. Do we have a date certain on this? Is that up to us? Staff? Two weeks?
March 21st, Councilman.
March 21st, okay. We'll continue item 4 till March 21st. Without objection. Item number 9. All right. Wait till after, okay. Item number 9, we could have staff present this item, please.
Item 9, Councilman, this is a report from the Planning Commission. It's an appeal by Mr. Sesomak from the South Central Farmers, and it has to do with the construction of 4 industrial buildings in CD9. This is a CEQA appeal.
Okay.
Good afternoon. I'm Jordan Turner, Department of City Planning. I was the advisory agency for the case that adopted the environmental clearance EIR for the case. This is an appeal of a CEQA appeal for the parcel map and site plan review of the EIR appeal. On December 6, 2016, both the parcel map and the site plan review were appealed to the City Planning Commission. Both appeals were denied, and the City Planning Commission added 8% EV parking solar provision and clarification of project design features. The Commission also adopted the EIR with a statement of overriding consideration in regards to the traffic. Just an overview of the project. The site is zoned M2-2 with land use designation of light industrial per the Southeast Los Angeles Community Plan. It is for a subdivision of one lot into 4 lots for the construction of 4 industrial parcels on a currently vacant site. The building height will be approximately 39 feet for all buildings, and the site will provide approximately 30,000 square feet of landscape open space, a total of 404 parking spaces, and as previously mentioned, 33 of those spaces will provide EV parking. And also as part of the approved map was a merger of 40th Place and 2 alleys within the project site. The appeal before you brings up 6 specific issues. Just to note, many of these appeal points were raised at the City Planning Commission and dealt with at the Commission. And there's a detailed response to each of these each of these appeal points in the Planning Department's letter dated March 2nd, 2017. Specifically, appeal points were related to the adequacy of the project description, the alternatives analysis, air quality and noise, project objectives and mitigation measures, and lastly, greenhouse gas impacts. Staff has, as I mentioned, provided responses to each of those, and we feel that no new issues have been brought up since the City Planning Commission determination. I'm here, along with many others from the Planning Department staff, to answer any specific questions regarding the EIR, and that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you. We will go to public comment now. We have the appellants. We have someone labeled the appellant rep. Someone is entitled to 5 minutes, and all other speakers are 1 minute. So anybody, the appellant here, and/or the appellant rep who wants to take the 5 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Tesosomok. I'm the appellant. So, collectively, my father and I, we've been working on this, trying to save this farm for over 23 years. Our goal has always been to, reinstate this, the birth of the social justice movement back into the community, and to bring all of the other organizations in our community to build a different vision of LA other than the South LA plan of cheap exploitive jobs. Your staff and Mr. Perry have made sure the trains will run on time and we will have separate and equal. But in one of the last sessions where Ms. Stella Chow, one of the principals of PIMA, stated that, if we love this place so much, how come we won't buy it? And for the record, we're here for the record, obviously. We've made several attempts. We raised $60 million back in 2006, and Mr. Horowitz turned us down. When Mr. Horowitz was trying to sell the property, we made many approaches with many organizations from the city and social organizations to again try to purchase this property and to make it available to the community as a different vision of LA. And today, again, we're here, asking Ms. Stella Chow, as one of the principals of PIMA, that, for the record, we've been trying to fulfill her statement that, why won't we just buy this property? And we, for the record, we're here. We've been working for over 13 years to try to make this a possibility, to bring everybody around the city to try to make this a possibility. This is not an unusual situation. The cornfields was a similar situation. The EIR was already approved. And, there was a possibility that was made with state money. The cornfields were purchased, and today you have a beautiful state park. We are having that similar vision. We want to have this open green space be something similar to many of the other LA standard places like the Watts Towers, the Hollywood sign. This is, the South Central Farm represents the birth of the social justice movement across this country. As I traveled today across the U.S., particularly among Native American communities, the movement that we started here in South Central LA has spawned thousands of community gardens. Everywhere I go, everybody talks about we need to have community gardens. We need to have these green spaces. More exploitive sweatshop jobs is not the future of LA. And I'm asking you all here, to take the moral high ground, to really dig deep and consider a different alternative for the last, 14 contiguous piece of land in South Central LA. And, with that, I want to thank you.
Thank you. Is there a card for the applicant from Pima? I don't have a card up here. Okay. Can you give the card to our Sergeant at Arms here, and for the record, keep it here. Thank you. Welcome.
Good afternoon. My name is Patrick Perry. I'm an attorney representing Pima Alameda Partners, owner of the property and the applicant for these particular approvals. As Mr. Turner indicated, this is a CEQA appeal. The decision by the Planning Commission that denied the prior appeal from the advisory agency and the Director of Planning for the site plan review and the parcel map was final with respect to the project approvals under state law. Because a non-elected body certified the environmental impact report, that decision is appealable to the elected body, the City Council. That's the only issue that we're here for. So issues related to the use of the property, whether this is an appropriate use and so forth, have already been decided by the Planning Commission and the denial of the appeal. I would just briefly like to provide a little bit of background, and then I'll address some of the CEQA issues. This particular property was utilized for a period of time as community gardens pursuant to license agreement that was terminable on 30 days notice. That notice was provided, the license agreement was terminated, the community garden was removed from the site. That was in 2006. There was subsequent litigation. The proponents of the community gardens lost that litigation. The property's been vacant ever since, has not been used for community gardens in over 10 years. It's a light industrially zoned property designated in the general plan. What we're proposing is a light manufacturing use, garment manufacturing use. With respect to the CEQA issues, those have for the most part already been addressed. There was no new information that was provided with respect to the appeal documents themselves. There was only a letter attached that had been submitted during the public comment period on the draft EIR. Those comments had been responded to as part of the final EIR. There were some additional comments that were addressed in connection with the Planning Commission's appeal subsequently. There was one memorandum that was submitted by a consultant, presumably on behalf of the appellant, I think about 2 weeks ago. I provided a detailed response to that last week. I'm not sure, because I wasn't able to get the response in timely enough to be included in the staff report, whether you've had an opportunity to review that. There are a few issues to address, just simply for the record. First of all, there's an allegation that the EIR was inadequate because it failed to review the worst case scenario, and that at least allegedly is a requirement under CEQA. That is not correct. That is a misstatement of the law. CEQA does not provide that you have to study the worst case use that can possibly be developed on a piece of property. You study the project that is proposed. There were allegations that there was not an adequate study of the traffic, specifically the truck traffic. The truck traffic number of trips that was studied were calculated based on the Institute of Transportation Engineers manual. That's the industry standard. They looked at 351 truck trips. Those were converted into passenger car equivalent trips by multiplying them by 2, all in accordance with industry standards. So the allegation that only 75 trips were studied is incorrect. The air quality impacts were based upon the 351 truck trips that were studied. So all of the allegations were simply incorrect. They were either incorrect or they were based on documents that were not the current documents. They were based on mitigated negative declaration that had been prepared for a different project previously, so they're not even the correct figures. In the interest of time, I'm not going to go on. If you have any questions, we're available. I'm joined by the project architect, by the project contractor, by Marie Campbell of Sapos Environmental, who prepared the environmental impact report, and representatives of each of the 4 owners of the property are also present. We have renderings of the project if you'd like to see those as well. So we're available if you have any questions, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay, and now general public comment on this item. All public speakers have 1 minute. Let's do it after. Alberto Tlatoa, Francis Fisher, Annie Thornton.
Hello. We've been working on this project for a lot of years now, and the fact that we still continue to be committed to this project speaks a lot for itself. Don't you think so? We're not questioning the use of the property. All we're saying is that we're trying to bring this to the community, restore it back to the community, which it belongs to the community. You know, we're not saying we don't want jobs. Yeah, good, do this project, but somewhere else, because this land historically has been for the people. It was a project that benefited the community in a lot of ways that people still remember it, and there's a reason why nothing has been built in this property for 10 years, because the community has stood up, rose up, and fought to save it. So all we're saying is we want this place to be back a community garden and provide food for the communities. We've been working in the community to provide fresh organic food for a couple years now. We run a successful CSA, we do farmers markets, we donate to local food pantries in South Central, and we work with schools as well too to educate children about food and food access and food justice. So, you know, we are just asking that we restore back the South Central Farm.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Annie Thornton. I am a member of the South Central Farm Restoration Committee. I just wanted to bring attention to the EIR report. I think that the numbers are inherently flawed, and I think that they need to be examined more closely. That area is, yes, it is zoned for industrial use now, but it has a history, and in terms of Los Angeles itself, it could be utilized to bring community support and bring together histories, and I think that it is a wonderful thing for Los Angeles to have, and it is one of the last undeveloped lots and should be considered more thoughtfully. So thank you.
Thank you. Francis Fisher, Julia J. Pawson, Sharadu Nuadibia. Francis Fisher here? Julia J. Pawson. Chinyadu Nawadibia. And Mariana Soan Renteria.
Hi, my name is Julia J. Posen. I'm also a member of the South Central Farm Restoration Committee, and I've had the privilege and honor of getting to know a lot of the community members and supporters that have really been a part of this cause and this farm, and really gotten to experience firsthand the profound impact that green open space can have on individuals, on children and families. And my interest is both in seeing greater food independence and open space for people, you know, original members, as well as the broader area of South Central. I live in downtown Los Angeles, and I was born in Los Angeles, and I plan to start my own family one day in Los Angeles, and I see my peers around me and the value of open space and the draw of that and the value it has for the entire city, and I hope that we can move forward with that in mind and see that it is a priceless commodity for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Chinedu Wadibia. I'm a supporter of the restoration of the South Central Farm, as well as being a longtime Californian. I think that the South Central Farm needs to return to its original location, because the South Central community is an underserved and deficient area of LA. that needs a local food system, a community food hub, and it will further the green future that a lot of Los Angeles pride themselves on, making that a trend in America. The worries that the farmers will look to the city to help them subsidize this endeavor should, be eschewed, because they have been building pledges and people that will help them secure the funds to purchase the land back from Pima. And this is a chance for Pima to stand up and be a trailblazer in our fight for social and environmental justice in Los Angeles. So please step up to the plate, guys. Thank you.
Mariana Saori Renteria, Natividad Carrera, Ernat Roberts. I'm sorry, before you begin, the gentleman here with a sign, Sergeant at Arms, can you bring down your sign? The people behind you cannot see when you pick that sign up, so if you could just keep it down. Actually, signs are not permitted in the chambers, but if you do it in such a way that doesn't obstruct other people, that's fine with me, but you're obstructing other people's views. Thank you. Go ahead.
I'm here in support of the appeal to reject the final EIR. I studied at Trade Tech and spent my afternoons volunteering at the South Central Farm. This significantly improved the quality of life for a teenager with little access to open spaces. This area of the city is particularly deficient in access to open space, and it would serve as an environmental justice to establish a community farm and food hub there. Food is a means of control and yet serves as a pathway to independence. Studies show that in order to feed all the humans on the planet, we are going to have to grow as much food in the next 35 years as we have grown since the beginning of civilization. Let the South Central Farm come back to fruition and house the nation's largest urban farm for many generations to enjoy. Thank you.
Thank you. Natividad Carrera, Ernat Roberts.
Yes, thank you for your time. I'm actually from the San Fernando Valley, and I used to work in South Central, and I have friends down there. That's how I became familiar with the issue. And I think it's very important to, step up and provide this green space for the people of South Central. I think it's very much an issue of equality. In the San Fernando Valley, we have lots of green space, and you can see what an impact it has on the environment. Kids running around, families being able to go to the park. And they have a very ambitious plan right here with the South Central Farm to also provide healthy food for the community. And it would really be a shame, now that they have secured the funding, that we would not be able to get the space for what the community has been calling for many years. So please reconsider. Thank you.
Ernat Roberts, Rosa Romero, Linda Piera Avila.
Ernest Roberts, PV Jobs, I'm the executive director. Modern urban, I'm not an expert in this stuff, but from what I understand, modern urban farming techniques involve multiple little story levels and aquaponics, and planting stuff in a flat, a multi-acre site is ineffective for farming. What's needed is jobs. We need jobs for the local community. I can tell you, and that the South LA has lagged behind in the economic recovery. And you talk about underserved food populations. How about the underserved jobs that are needed in South LA? So we're here to support us, and I can safely say that our 130 collaborators all support these jobs coming to South LA. They're badly needed, and we're going to be involved in making sure that even the disadvantaged individuals from the local community get jobs on this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Rosa Romero, Linda Piera Avila, John Quigley.
Hello, my name is Rosa, and I have been personally involved in trying to save the South Central Farm for the past 13 years. I used to run the children's garden within the farm. I'm currently the South Central Farm Health and Education co-president, but today I've come to you as a community participatory research at the Urban Environmental Policy Institute at Occidental College. We are working on a larger food sovereignty plan for South Los Angeles that would serve as a job creation and also food sovereignty within the region. We're working with organizations such as Community Services Unlimited, Social Justice Learning Institute, LA CAN, and local neighborhood councils to develop this plan. And we really see the SCF site as essential to establishing food sovereignty and education and awareness in this area. It's the last piece of undeveloped land in this area, and I think we need to preserve it for the community and really take a stand as Los Angeles and say that we really care about this. And I know these are issues that are really important to you, and I want you to, take a stand and help us talk with PIMA to really make this something that can go forward and be fruitful. Thank you.
Thank you. Linda Piora-Avila, John Quigley, and Scotty Thompson.
Good afternoon, Chair Huizar, Mr. Englander, Mr. Harris-Dawson. I'm Linda Piara-Avila, and I'm on the South Central Farmers Health and Education Committee, also on the Restoration Committee. And today I'd like to make my point about a comment from your, thank you, John, from the DEIR that says that the subject site is approximately 12.9 net acres, is currently vacant, absent any trees or significant shrubbery, and is overgrown with scattered weeds and grasses. Well, frankly, this is, I think, a little self-serving, because this is a picture of what it was before, and there is a long list of all the crops that were grown on site that were culturally significant, fruits, vegetables, and herbs. And because of unfortunate series of events, the land was bulldozed, and so now it's vacant, and there are no significant weeds. It would read, please do the right thing, return it to the growing green space for Angelinos. Thank you.
Thank you. John Quigley, Scotty Thompson.
Hi, my name is John Quigley. With all due respect to the Council for PIMA, the allegations that he says that have been refuted in the EIR are most likely going to be settled in court. I just wanted to say that. We're offering PIMA the opportunity to really help the community of Los Angeles. This symbol, this farm has become a symbol internationally. It's the last large open space near downtown Los Angeles in a food desert where the air quality is already over the federal limit. And now you're going to add in all of these truck trips, one of the flaws of the EIR. It's unenforceable as it currently exists. This is a symbol for the future of Los Angeles. It will provide jobs, it will provide access to clean organic food in the community, and it's a regional issue with national and international ramifications. We're part of the South Central Farm Restoration Committee with dozens of members representing a broad spectrum of business, science, education, entertainment industry, the neighborhood groups in South Central near this property. So we're asking today, we have raised the money. PIMA, please sell it back to the community, be a hero. There are other warehouses available near this property where PIMA could do their business. Thank you.
Mr. Quigley?
Mr. Quigley?
Mr.
John?
Quigley?
Mr. Quigley?
Mr. Englander has a question.
I was just curious. Are you by any chance the same John Quigley, or is there another one that chained themselves to an oak tree about 10 years ago?
That would be me. Yes. Yeah, another great part.
I remember they moved the tree, but after it was like a long time, and then you got them to relocate it or something.
Yeah, and it's still alive today.
Still alive, yeah, I remember that.
Glory lives. Yes.
I read the paper. Okay, yeah, I remember that.
And so we
I
want
recognize
the South
the name.
Central Farm to live. Thank you.
Recognize the name. Thank you.
All right.
Scotty Thompson.
Hi, I'm Scotty Thompson. I am a member of the Environmental Media Association, and we've been working with the South Central Farm Committee to buy back this farm and bring clean air and access to local healthy food back to the community. It's been so inspiring to witness the farmers and the community who are so passionate about helping
their community fight against the food desert and the polluted air that's giving children asthma. And it's been, this is the movement here is the birthplace of the environmental justice movement. And people have been watching what has been going on here when it happened years ago, and they're looking now. And this farm could become a symbol globally and nationally for the green movement and be up there with the Hollywood sign in terms of sights to see in Los Angeles and bring jobs and good energy to the space. Thank you.
Thank you. Madeline Gianneschi, Ivan Gianneschi, and Lydia Ponce.
Thank you. My name is Madeline Janeski, aka Zima. I'm an actress and activist. I'm here to support the appeal to reject the final EIR in support of buying back this farm as an environmentally sound decision for South Central, a community that would benefit greatly from local food. As with anything planted in California, it grows. We flippantly accept that our air and inorganic food cause cancer, and this organic farm would revitalize a community that has been abandoned by the public. These people want food that doesn't make them sick, and they want air that they can breathe. This is just a simple common sense issue, you guys. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Ivan Gianneschi, Lydia Ponce, and Laura Palomares.
Good afternoon, Lydia Ponce from Venice. I stand before you currently with a lawsuit, and the city planning department plans to just go ahead and annihilate, by their own laws and rules, make justifications that I personally just got, and usually I can make sense of these. I really haven't read them, but unfortunately, I do have to ask before you make a decision that you leave the file open at least for 30 days for someone like me to actually take a look at it. It might help prevent further litigation. As a layperson, and I read these things, it's just basically common sense that a farm doesn't match CEQA, the value of whatever CEQA means to you. But the surrounding efforts of empty warehouses are available to Pima. And simply put, they just need to sell the land back to the people, because the collective neighborhood would enjoy a local farm and would actually not enjoy a warehouse and all the unhealthy issues that come with it. We could very well propose an eminent domain by the people, but that's another conversation. The last thing I'd like to say is that today, if you please consider leaving the file open so we can actually talk about healthy green jobs for people in South Central LA. Thank you.
Thank you. You were Lydia Ponce, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and then...
I'm Yvonne Janeski. I'm here to support the appeal to reject the final EIR as an asthma sufferer. I'm in favor of restoring the South Central farm because air pollution does not know zip codes. Developing this land for industrial purposes instead of agricultural use is a public health issue to me that affects me personally. I had an asthma attack this morning. Diesel trucks pump out 10 times as much dangerous pollution as regular cars and cause lung cancer and air pollution, which is at an all-time high in South Central. We all know land developers lie, and they'll not keep their promise of limiting the diesel trucks per day. If this land is not utilized to serve the community as a farm, it is yet another human rights violation to an area in Los Angeles that's notoriously marginalized. This farm is a symbol of an ability to breathe for a community. And it's a symbol of an ability to breathe for America. By the age of 2 months, Los Angeles area infants have already inhaled enough toxic pollutants to reach the EPA lifetime limit for cancer risk. Thank you.
Laura Palomares, Elena Christofelis,
Good
Sherry
afternoon.
Franklin.
Good afternoon. My name is Laura Palomares. I'm here to support the appeal by the South Central Farm. The South Central farmers are ready to buy back the land on 41st and Alameda, put it into a trust, and work with local agencies, change makers, and community members to prioritize our health, not just as us as people, but also the health of our environment. I'm part of the advisory board for the South Central Farm nonprofit. I'm also part of the restoration committee for the South Central Farm. I'm also a staff member at Occidental College's Urban and Environmental Policy Institute as their program manager for their food systems programs. And I think most importantly, I'm a product of South Central. I was born and raised there, went to public schools there. I'm currently working also as a consultant, and I consult with several agencies in South Central. As a master gardener, I also devote my extra time to doing workshops in Spanish in South Central for local community members. But I think most importantly, and the part we really, really want to emphasize, is that we are ready to buy this land back, not just for our benefit, but for your benefit as well.
Hi, I'm Frances Fisher. I was on the list. I had to go move my car.
I'm sorry, what's your name?
Frances Fisher, F-R-A-N-C.
Okay, we'll keep your card till the end of the speakers. Thank you. Okay. Right now we have Elena Christophilus, Sherry Franklin.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Elena Christopoulos, and I'm a scientist, sustainability consultant, and a commissioner with the City of Santa Monica. I'm here today to oppose the FEIR for the parcel at 4015 South Alameda, submitted by the Pima Corporation. There are abandoned warehouses in the vicinity that could be repurposed for Pima's project instead of taking up precious open space that should be a neighborhood and regional resource for its original use in urban farm. The suggestion is to have Pima use the closed American Apparel operation, which is about a mile north of the farm site. The parcel is only vacant and underutilized because it was bulldozed in 2006, which stripped the South Central Farm of its crops, labor, food source, environmental resources, community open space, and neighbor networking center. Today is voting day. Please stand on the right side of history and return the land to the community serving purposes and grant the appeal by the South Central farmers and deny the FEIR for the Pima project. Let's buy back the farm. Thank you.
Cherie Franklin, and for the record, the social justice movement on this site started in 1986 when we fought the Lancer, and our goal was always to bring jobs and manufacturing back to South Los Angeles. The community in South Los Angeles has spoken through 2 community plan revisions and a community development plan that said we want to create jobs on this site. We had no interest in putting a farm here on this parcel. You have letters of support from concerned citizens, Institute for Maximum Human Potential, CRCD, and also Assemblyman Reginald Jones Sawyer, who was involved with this project from the very beginning. And in your package, you will see that, you know, Pima and his team, we've walked the community. We have 1,200 signatures from residents. The residents want jobs. They do not want to work and labor on a farm and not be paid. And if you look at this chart within here, you'll see that the farm is selling products, but they're not selling them and bringing them to South Los Angeles. They're doing it for other West Side people. Thank you.
Thank you. Kristen Steele, Bruce Campbell, Noreen McKendon, and Frances Fisher. Welcome.
Hi, my name is Kristen Steele. I'm here in support of the appeal to buy back the farm. I'm a concerned citizen. I live in Central Los Angeles. I have 2 children, and I'm a health and nutrition researcher and writer. The obesity epidemic is something I think we're all aware of. Almost 20% of children are now obese, 60% of adults. This is an issue I've been researching for a long time, and the #1 cause of obesity is lack of access to healthy food and overconsumption of processed, unhealthy foods. And we are in a food desert. This land is truly the jewel of LA. There's nowhere else that we can grow as much food and have space for a food hub that would truly impact the lives of all of our children. So I'm here in support for buying back the farm. Thank you.
Good day, Chair Huizar and Plum Committee members. I'm Bruce Campbell from Palms and been working on the South Central Farm issue for 13, 14 years. This EIR claims that an air monitoring station north of Chinatown somehow suffices to measure 41st and Alameda corridor air emissions. It does not. We need to definitively determine how many trucks these Pima companies currently use. Forever 21 planned a garment factory and warehouse on 11 acres of this site and force off 2,580 truck trips a day. That makes 1,290 trucks per day. Yet the current proposal claims only 75 trucks a day will be used, and that is for 2.6 acres more than Forever 21 would have used. And yet it's for 4 companies rather than just one. Also, the EIR is quite inadequate in regards to not only traffic, but in regards to other major construction sites in the region. The initial Pima proposal was before the huge building boom in the southern part of downtown LA, and thus there will be a lot more emissions from construction and related transportation than claimed by the EIR during the construction phase for the warehouses and the transportation to construction.
Thank you.
Lastly, if there were 1,000 people working on site, they'd have to do a more thorough analysis. They claim only 998 will work on site. And also, if any residents lived on site, they'd have to do more toxic cleanup, like the elevated arsenic level, but they say it's under regulations, so they won't clean it out.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Noreen McClendon. I'm the Executive Director of Concerned Citizens of South Central Los Angeles. This site is the birthplace of our organization. The reality is that the property was never, ever owned by the South Central Farm. Concerned Citizens started a community garden on that site, and we had them select their own leadership. The leadership began to charge as much as $1,000 a plot to people. They used to take their plots if they didn't pay the fee. The South Central Farm turned it into a money-making thing for other people all over the city. We support gardening, but not 14 acres of it. We also develop affordable housing, and no matter how cheap we make the housing, if people can't work, they still can't afford a house. They can't afford food, they can't afford anything because they don't have employment at all. Annenberg Foundation was willing to buy this property, but the leadership of the farm wasn't willing to tell the truth about lies that they told about our former executive director. Finally, Pima will be helping us locally. We don't need symbolism in the 9th District. The majority of the people that spoke here today don't live there. Concerned Citizens started here, and we've been here, and we will continue to be here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That concludes our public comment cards. Oh, yes, Francis. Yes, Francis Fisher.
Hi, my name is Francis Fisher. I am the treasurer of the Environmental Media Association. I represent them in asking Pima to please sell us the space. Out of the ashes of the riot in 1992, South Central had been thriving, feeding the neighborhood in a desert for 14 years. And food is more important than warehousing. 2 neighborhood councils have already passed a resolution against allowing the Pima warehouse, and we implore you guys, please sell it to us so that our children can have fresh food in a desert. Thank you.
Thank you. I think that concludes our...
I had a chit in. Feinstein.
Okay, I didn't receive it. We're going to continue with our discussion here. If you could talk to the Sergeant at Arms to clear that up, please.
I just sat an hour in traffic.
Yeah, can you talk to him first? I'm just trying to clear that up. Otherwise, we have regulars here and others who would just get up and start speaking if we don't follow the rules, and the rules are... Let's clear that up with the city clerk, and then we'll try to figure that out. Thank you. Can Sergeant at Arms, can you talk to the gentleman and clear up if there was a card or not on number 9 and try to find it? Okay, we'll have a discussion on this, and then we'll go back to public comment should we need to. Oh, okay. Well, we'll go ahead. We were told this was a duplicate, but it wasn't a duplicate, so you're correct. Mike Feinstein?
Yeah, thanks. Mike Feinstein, former Santa Monica mayor and council member. The EIR didn't study the off-site alternative with a park on-site that would have been a better mitigation for the traffic, the truck issues and the air pollution issues. During the draft EIR, a new property became available, so legally there was another mitigation possible, and there should have been a study. But given the unique nature of the parcel and the fact that the open space element specifically calls for more open space in this part of the city, calls for preserving existing open space, calls for farmers market, economic self-reliance, community stability by such land use patterns, the idea that the city didn't choose to study that alternative when there was money available to buy the parcel and thus pay for it to buy a different parcel and go off-site means that you don't have sufficient alternatives in front of you to act in the public's interest. And for that reason, the EIR should be recirculated before it's challenged on this basis legally. Thanks.
Thank you. One other card that was misplaced is Angela Flores.
Hi there. I'll make it quick. I'm speaking on behalf of the Autonomous Space, the Eastside Cafe, longtime supporter of the South Central Farm located in El Sereno, Northeast LA. I'd like for the council here to consider the political as well as the environmental climate of our times. We are under a fascist government that are denying our future, our children's future, and the well-being to continue to live on this planet. I strongly believe that if it wasn't for the persistence and dedication of the South Central farmers, there would be no awareness of the urgency how climate change would affect us all. And so I ask you today to please consider working with the farmers to sell the land to them. Otherwise, it will not only be a disservice to our children or South Central or LA, it will be a tragedy to our world. Please be on the right side of history and help us facilitate a dialogue with the current owners so the South Central Farm can buy back the land for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So with that, are there any questions? Mr. Harris-Dawson?
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair, and I want to thank everybody that came out today to testify on this very, very important issue for the city of Los Angeles and I think the environmental justice movement across the world. This site, you know, both the Concerned Citizens campaign around the Lancer development is in a bunch of history books as one of the key flashpoints in one of the first big fights over environmental justice, and then the South Central Farm more recently is there as well. So this is a big deal, and I do think it's historic, and I do think it's one of the more important parcels in our city. I had a couple of things I wanted to make sure were in the record, and then I just had a procedural question so that the public can understand. One, I know that one of the resolutions for the South Central Farm was that other farm space was made available. It's in my district. There's a very beautiful farm there now that lots of people farm on, and as far as I know, that continues to go forward. I want to just make sure that's the case. Secondly, what's before us today, no matter how it goes, whether we grant the appeal or deny the appeal, do either of those actions make it impossible for the owner to sell to the folks who want to buy it?
City Planning, this is Lucy with the department. To clarify, yes, this is a CEQA appeal, a challenge to the city's environmental document, and under no circumstance, either by your action or inaction today, will it obligate the owner of the property to sell the property. We have no authority to require.
Does it obligate or prevent?
No.
It does not prevent.
So no action today will obligate or prevent.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you. And on the ER itself, the appellant claims that the ER fails to adequately describe the project and provide sufficient detail about project operations. Is there a response to that from our staff?
Good afternoon, William Lamborn with the Planning Department. Yeah, this was one of the issues that was brought up in the appeal as well and is described in greater detail for you in the appeal response in your packet. But in more general terms, the EIR does provide a full description of all of the components of the project description that are needed for a reasonably worst-case scenario analysis of the project's potential impacts under CEQA, inclusive of its square footage, its height, traffic that's generated, again, that was estimated pursuant to nationally established standards by the Institute of Traffic Engineers, full site plan, and operational characteristics as well in terms of the land use in order to analyze potential impacts.
Secondly, was the project description, did it change at all during the EIR analysis?
It did change in very minor ways, I think, regarding to, and Jordan here with planning may recall more specifically also, but in regards to the exact number of parking spaces, also I think there's a split in the way the land use is allocated between warehousing versus manufacturing uses, and there were slight changes there that are all accounted for in a revised site plan. That's some corrections and additions in the final EIR. We also do have a letter in the record from DOT which analyzed those minor changes and found that it would reduce the amount of vehicle trips and therefore would not have any adverse impacts that were not previously contemplated.
So even if in fact it was changed, two things, did it disrupt the process at all in adequately describing the project and or any mitigation, any impacts that were not addressed in mitigation?
Lucy Butter of the Planning Department. No, the project, the changes to the project were verified with the Planning Department and DOT to verify that the changes did not result in any new impacts, did not otherwise require new mitigation, and that all the previously contemplated mitigation and analysis covered the scope of the changes that were proposed in the final.
One of the other items brought up by the appellants is that the EIR fails to analyze feasible park and community garden alternatives. Were those alternatives addressed in the EIR?
If we understand your question correctly, it was that the EIR failed to adequately analyze a reasonable range of alternatives in open space?
Yes.
So the obligations under CEQA is that the lead agency shall consider the impacts proposed by the project, consider a full range of feasible mitigation based on the identification of those impacts, and then to consider a reasonable range of alternatives that would foreseeably or conceivably address the significant and unavoidable or otherwise increased impacts of the project. Based on the impacts of the project and based on the objectives of the project as identified in the EIR, the city did analyze a reasonable range of alternatives. Now, that being said, there were concerns about the city considering an open space or community garden alternative, and I think it was considered not feasible based on both primarily because it wouldn't meet a majority of the project objectives under the EIR. Okay, it would not lessen any impacts. And moreover, we based our analysis on a conclusion by the Department of Toxic Substances Control, which basically concluded that based on the elevated levels of arsenic, lead, and volatile organic compounds, the site was appropriate for industrial use, but that any other use would require further study.
What's the project's objectives? Because if however we define the project objectives, that may lead us to what the feasible alternatives are. So we didn't feel like we had to analyze a open space park or green space. We weren't required to do that.
Yeah, the project alternatives are identified, or sorry, excuse me, not the alternatives. The project objectives are identified in the draft EIR. I believe there's 7 or 8 of them that primarily relate to objectives that are consistent with the goals of the Southeast Los Angeles Community Plan's land use designation for the site. In terms of job creation, in terms of providing for industrial development, and things of that nature. We can...
So my point being that if that's the objective, well, that's not going to leave any possibility for any alternatives such as green space, open space, farming space, etc., correct?
Correct.
And should we have analyzed that, given the history of this parcel of land?
Sorry, can you repeat that question?
Should we have analyzed that alternative, even if the project objectives are to create, industrial use? should we have not analyzed open space, green space, park space, farming space?
Well, I think to be fair, based on the presence of the hazardous materials on the site, it would make it very difficult to find it feasible to provide open space on the site that would not otherwise create other impacts to users of the site. And we relied on a responsible agency, the Department of Toxic Substances Control, to advise the city as to the appropriateness of the use based on the existing levels of these cancerous and otherwise hazardous compounds on the site now. And as was concluded by DTSC, they otherwise stated that based on the proposed use, that the project was acceptable based on those levels, and that any other use would require further study.
Who was the responsible agency?
The Department of Toxic Substances Control.
So they decide what alternatives to analyze?
No, the city decides, and again, that's based on the underlying zoning, which in this case is manufacturing, and the land use designation, surrounded on all sides by industrial and manufacturing uses, and with a history of industrial and manufacturing uses, including furniture manufacturing, sheet metal factory, and what else was there? Oh, and there was gas stations previously on the site as well.
Okay. So any mention, discussion about a farming, open space, green space, parks, that we did not look at that or examine the possibility of that in this EIR?
Yeah, so again, Will Lamborn, Planning Department. So both in the draft and in the final EIR, there's a discussion of, which reflects what we've been just discussing now, as far as why parks and recreational alternatives were withdrawn from further consideration in the EIR, that, again, primarily related to the site's surrounding context, to the site's land use and zoning designations, and then also, again, to the ability of such an alternative to meet project objectives or to lessen potential significant impacts under CEQA.
Okay. And one final question on my end. Some of the speakers raised the issue of air quality and noise. I drove by there the other day, maybe last week, and Alameda is a major corridor for diesel, major transportation corridor. There's talk about more activity at the port, and we can imagine increased activity in Alameda in the future. There's funds that are being applied for to expand that as a thoroughfare to get more goods from the port up to other parts of our country. Were all those things analyzed, and were the air quality mitigation factors satisfied?
Yeah, so with respect to air quality was fully analyzed in the EIR and compared to established thresholds. It was found that, I believe, for particulate matter during the construction phase, it would be less than significant with mitigation measures that are identified in the EIR, and during the operational phase that it would be less than significant below all applicable thresholds. Regarding noise was also fully analyzed in both the construction and operational phases. That's inclusive of on-site and also off-site noise caused by off-site traffic and construction traffic. And for noise, it was all found through the analysis in the EIR to be below applicable thresholds of significance.
Is that for current conditions or possible future conditions with expanded use of Alameda?
That's with project conditions, and also related projects identified at the time of the notice of preparation.
Thank you. Mr. Harris-Dawson?
Thank you. Just a quick question on thinking about all the testimony that we got today. When you all do an EIR, I know it may not be regular practice, but in this one, did you all review the historic significance of this particular parcel given its history of struggle, the history of struggle on it, not just in the last decade, but really in the last 30 years? Is that something that gets looked at, or if there's a mechanism to review?
So under the guidelines and standards for CEQA analysis, environmental justice or socioeconomic impacts are not an impact for the purposes of identifying project impacts under the California Environmental Quality Act.
Well, so I'm meaning something slightly different than that. So let's just, for the sake of discussion, say the Lorraine Motel in Memphis, Tennessee, where Martin Luther King was killed. So so that site, everybody knows that, right? Everybody knows the historic significance of that. Perhaps there's not a way to look at anything like that at all, the social significance and historic significance of something. Because I just ask that because in many cases what we get is people come back later trying to declare the site historic, right? And I'm just wondering, can we skip that step?
Well, I don't know if this is exactly what you're getting at, but in addition to what Lucy was describing in terms of the CEQA impacts, there is in both the draft and the final EIR discussion of the site's history and the site background to sort of provide context and provide information dating, I think, as far back at least as the discussion of the Lancer site in the 80s to provide context and background in terms of the site's history.
So that's a part of the discussion?
Yes.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay, great, thank you. Mr. Englander?
This is a complicated one. Thanks for opening up a can of worms, but I don't think saying a can of any kind of opening of any can would be appropriate. The questions I think that both of my colleagues asked had brought me to a conclusion that I didn't think I had walking into this, and the fact that it has a lot of the underlying issues with the particular property, particularly contamination issues, and the fact that even if we did deny the appeal, that doesn't prohibit and cease any conversation from happening in the acquisition and possible cleanup to turn it into some type of better use and higher use of for access for food and growth and open space. So I am inclined, I'll go ahead and put it in the motion then based on this conversation that we've had. And I really do appreciate the questions that you asked because it led me to that, to deny the appeal. And but then urge also the parties to continue the conversation and see if they can work something out. So I think it would be the best interest of everybody.
Thank you, Mr. Englander. Just looking at the EIR itself and the rules that we usually abide by and looking at the adequacy of environmental impact reports, I would say that it's sufficient to approve the EIR, in my view, given the number of EIRs that we see come through this committee. But what does strike me is a history of this property and the social justice issues involved with it and the need for more urban farming to occur, especially in these neighborhoods. But given what's before us, I do think that the EIR is sufficient and would urge the property owners to work with local residents who have been involved with this issue to see if some compromise could be reached in the future, whatever development project is there. So that's my comments on this. Mr. Harris-Dawson.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Englander and Mr. Chair. I think I appreciate both sets of comments and all the discussion today. I think what's important to note is that what's before us today is not a decision about whether or not this is should be a farm going forward, or if it should be another use. What's before us is the adequacy of the report and whether or not the appeal has merit. And I think, I agree with both my colleagues that if the money's there and a deal can be made, that's ideal. And I'd encourage all parties to do that. And with that, I'd offer a second to Mr. Englander's motion.
Thank you. Any other further questions or comments? Seeing none, so without objection, we will sustain approve Mr. Englander's motion to deny the appeal. The correct language for that is Mr. Mejia?
To deny the appeal, Councilman, and approve the underlying project, and also to read into the record the statement of overriding considerations, the mitigation monitoring program, and related CEQA findings.
Thank you.
The final EIR.
Thank you. We will incorporate that into Mr. Englander's motion. Without objection, we'll approve that. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chair, before you go on to the other items and before people leave, I would just note for the record that there is plenty of vacant land in the 8th District, which is principally in South Central Los Angeles. So if people have resources and want to start a farm, you should reach out to our team. We'll look forward to talking to you.
Thank you. All right. Item number 2.
Item 2, Councilman, this is a report from City Attorney and a draft ordinance to expand the definition of shelter for the homeless and to align the city shelter crisis regs with state law. And also there's a City Planning Department report with options.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Councilman. Claire Bowen, City Planning. I am very pleased today to have in front of you an ordinance that makes amendments to LAMC sections 12.81, 80, and 81 that would facilitate the establishment of temporary homeless shelters on public and private property. As a result of an action that you took on November 29th, the ordinance in front of you has been amended to include a registration process and would require that projects that are going to be open for homeless shelters would comply with temporary shelter requirements that are established by the fire department.
Great. Thank you. Just a couple of questions. We ran a temporary emergency shelter ordinance last year with many of these same provisions. Were there any problems with these or with our winter shelter sites that we should be aware of and planning for?
No, there were not.
Okay. And how much does it cost and how much time might a CUP application take?
There's no CUP application required for these properties. They're basically by right. They just have to issue the temporary.
So the nonprofits, et cetera, they don't have to apply for anything when...
That's correct. This ordinance allows for them to just register with the city, file a temporary shelter application, and then comply with the temporary shelter requirements of the fire department. They also do have to do some notification to owners of abutting properties within 500 feet as well as schools.
Okay. All right. So just let me say that council has already given instructions to revise this ordinance to get rid of some of the unnecessary limitations on emergency shelters so that we can better address the homelessness crisis and help protect the most vulnerable of our residents. When Plum last heard this item in November, we asked to include the application and notification components that we had tested out during El Nino last year. So I don't think there's a whole lot more we could add. We could move this item forward, I believe. So any other questions or comments? Okay, we have one public speaker, Joanne Danganan.
Hi there. Thanks for the correct pronunciation this time.
Yeah, thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Joanne Dangan, and I'm here on behalf of Central City Association. CCA is supportive of comprehensive solutions to address the homelessness crisis in Los Angeles. We support, therefore, streamlining the process for the mayor and city council to declare a shelter emergency. We also support expanding the definition of shelter for the homeless to include more types of facilities and providers and to be consistent with state law. Allowing homeless shelters to more easily operate will provide services for individuals throughout the city. In addition, we appreciate the work of city planning to identify additional zones where nonprofit organizations can operate shelters beyond what is currently defined in the LAMC. CCA thanks the committee for your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. So with that, we'll move to approve the city attorney prepared ordinance and instruct the planning department in conjunction with the city attorney to prepare a draft ordinance to provide a process consistent with option 2 in the planning department's February 10 report, including performance standards to minimize potential nuisance impacts. The ordinance should cover all zones not covered by 12.81 except open space.
So maybe a little bit of a correction. There's actually an ordinance in front of you today that's come from the city attorney that we would ask that you make a decision on today and move that forward, and then therefore maybe as a 2.0 version direct our department to go back to the Planning Commission with an addition to this ordinance that would expand the amount of zones that where it can be done today, because typically the ordinance today basically only allows these shelters to be done on properties that are R3 and above, and our report we were directed to do back on November 29th, expands the options for maybe allowing those shelters to take place on perhaps R1 properties and above.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, he's waving yes, and I usually follow his lead.
I think Mayor, the councilman read into the record the first action which was to approve the city attorney ordinance, and then as a follow-up is a directive to city planning.
Okay.
Yes, we're saying the same thing,
We're
different
saying the
language.
same thing.
Okay. All righty, so we'll do that. We'll approve this, the ordinance, and with those instructions, to come back with a draft ordinance from the planning department and the city attorney working together to make that second directive.
Great, thank you.
Thank you very much. Any objections to that? Seeing none, so ordered. Thank you. Now we go to public comment, correct?
Yes, sir.
General public comment. Antonia Ramirez.
Thank you very much. There is a transitional shared housing for homeless that has now bordered on public safety, negligence, health and welfare, and human safety violations. Pastor Chu Wong and Grace Pam, who run a homeless ministry out of the church, the LA Faith Chapel, located at 10216 South Denker Avenue, LA, California, 90047, called the Samaritan Home. The pastors purchased 5 duplexes in South Central, and these duplexes are 2 in each lot, front and back. They hired a wicked, vicious, vile, insensitive woman named Flores Akuchie. They are all Nigerians. They have housed several homeless people on each of these duplexes. Many of the homeless residents feel betrayed or the bait and switch game by the pastors for disconnecting the Wi-Fi and the TVs. And furthermore, Florence Akuche picks up the rent but makes excuses for not having paid the Wi-Fi or the TV or providing any kind of cleaning materials, disinfectants, etc. Ay, Chihuahua. Okay, thank you. God bless Donald Trump. God bless Donald Trump. Yes.
I was agreeing with you everywhere but now not the last piece. Wayne.
I really
Wayne,
thought.
Wayne, you got your guy's not here.
I know, man.
I know.
Can you give me his minute? I'll get 2 minutes.
All right, well, let me think about it. Let's see how your first minute goes.
Mr. Doggy Guy. Okay, so anyway, today again, the big plum issue. Yes on S. Yes on Measure S. I know Marchese came out in the LA Sentinel, nice picture of him smiling, saying he's against Measure S, but deep down he knows that he believes in S. Everybody believes in S because S is good. S protects affordable housing. Now, Marchese made the promise. He's going to build a 20-acre farm for these appellants out of CD9. They're going to move into CD8, and he's going to create this new farm. Thank you so much for the offer. We accept the offer. We will drop the appeal in CD9. We will stop moaning about this. We want the 20-acre farm in CD8. Yes to the farm. Yes on Measure S, and get out the vote.
Thank you. I'll hold your minute for next time. Okay.
Oh.
Yeah, sorry. Any other items on the agenda?
No, Councilman.
How about General Jeff?
All right, General Jeff used to be with Ronio and Joe Cooley. All right, man. Uncle Jam's Army. Yeah, there you go. Okay. Any?
General Jeff says yes. Thank you.
That concludes our items. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.